And welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. I am Mary Walter, your host. And that guy right there, you know him, you love him. It is the one and only Todd Starnes, who happens to be, I have to tell you, one of the nicest people I have ever met in this dog eat dog industry. So I am so honored that he is here with us tonight. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, you're here.
It's great to be here. Hi, Mary. I'm excited about this.
I just love it. You just come with such enthusiasm. So Todd was supposed to be with us, I think, 2 weeks ago, and you were battling bronchitis. It seems everybody has it. It must be going around. I don't know if that's something you just catch if you're prone to it. I don't know. I've never had it. So, I have friends who like get it every year. So, but you had it. I know other people who have had it. But now you're back. You're healed. You're hale and hearty, and you have a voice, which is ideal for this type of thing.
This is very good for radio to have a voice. Yes. Sign
Yes, it
language
is.
doesn't really work well.
So, first of all, if you're new to the podcast, please subscribe. I would appreciate it oh so much if you would subscribe. Speaking of which, let me just pull it up here. We have some new subscribers that I would like to thank. Where am I? Yay. Okay. Pete and Warped Factor and Jason and Ryan. That was today. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please like the podcasts, and if you're interested, you can go to YouTube. You can look through streams where it says hit the tab that says streams and go look for Mary Walter Radio. First of all, hit streams. And then you can go back and watch older episodes. Grace Baker, if you're a fan of the Todd Starnes show or you listen to KWAM, you know the name Grace Baker. She was here with me. It was so much fun with her. And there's a whole bunch of other guests and just some fun podcasts, even without guests, because sometimes I'm entertaining on my own. So, Todd, before I get into it with you, there's just a couple of political things I just want to bounce off of you just to get into just a little bit.
Okay.
So, for instance, the House, in a shock to no one, failed to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas.
Wow. Not surprised.
No.
We had Congressman Greg Steube was on the radio show today, and he told me there were at least two Republicans that he knew would not be voting. I guess there had to have been more, because with those two,
There
um,
were.
McClintock, and I knew about McClintock and Ken Buck. So I haven't seen the latest there.
Yeah, I was watching it, and there were something like 50 some odd Democrats who didn't vote and 20 something Republicans who were no votes.
Oh,
But we had it failed
oh, here we go.
214 to 216.
Yeah.
Democrats remained united. And of course, 4 Republicans voted no. McClintock, as you said, Buck, as you said, Gallagher out of Wisconsin, and Blake Moore out of Utah. Blake Moore switched his vote at the last minute. And he did that in a procedural move to be able to bring the resolution back to the floor. Something just fell. Um, what is up with Ken Buck? What is with him? He's becoming the new Mitt Romney. Like what's going on with him? Do you know?
I think it's the marijuana. They legalized it in Colorado.
Well, he's in Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. I flew in once to Denver International, and at first we thought it was just a low cloud bank, but I think it was the marijuana smoke. And all of us immediately ran to the nearest, convenience store for some Funyuns. I think that may be it. It's clouding his judgment. I don't know. Look, this is what's so frustrating, Mary, is that these people campaign one way, and then when they get elected, they govern in a very different direction. And this is only a problem that is unique to the Republicans.
Yep.
Democrats don't have that problem. They pretty much are pretty honest. They deliver on those campaign promises, no matter how bad they are.
Yeah, that's very true. Although I will say that Joe Biden lied a whole bunch. Said he was going to be moderate, he was going to be the president for all people, and the first thing he did was talk about the horrible MAGA Republicans, and all the people who voted for Donald Trump. So
Yeah.
Biden told quite a few fibs when he was campaigning, if I do say so myself. By the way, we're landing in Denver on Thursday on our way to Idaho, so I'll let you know.
Have some Doritos.
Well, we do have Cheetos, so for the ride, so we have
Hopefully
to
the
feed
flame are
ourselves.
hot.
We're not traveling first class, so we have to feed ourselves. Yeah, Ken Buck though lately has just been against everything Republicans are for. I just don't understand it. They just consistently snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, this man lied to Congress, and they're like, yeah, it's okay, no worries, we're fine with that. It's all right. I don't understand. All right. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about in DC, the court found that Trump is not immune from consequences in the 2020 election. What happened in the fallout of the 2020 election? So I guess my question is, at what point then does presidential immunity cut off?
It's a fair question. And again, I think you have to go back to the action. What is this issue all about? When you look at, for example, the documents, and the argument is that President Trump did not have the right. No, he did have the right. Joe Biden didn't have the right to have all those classified documents.
Right.
He was the vice president at the time. Mike Pence, same thing. Mike Pence. So those two men actually should have been charged. I mean, they could have been charged. But this, again, is not about that. This is about stopping Donald Trump. And I think this is really about the bureaucratic state. People call it the deep state, Mary, but it's really a bureaucratic, state. These people have been in those positions for ages and ages, and they simply do not. Sorry, I'm playing here with my computer. Oh, there we go. But they do not want to. They don't want to give up power. And President Trump was a threat to their power, and they're trying to take him out.
100%. They ruled that his ability to invoke presidential immunity in the face of criminal charges is no bueno. So he has the ability now, though, because I think he can take like 100 and some odd days to respond and decide if he wants to go to the next step or if he wants to go straight to SCOTUS. So he can slow walk this if he wants to, which, knowing Trump, he probably doesn't. But it would be great because it would make Jack Smith crazy. Would be awesome just to drive that man nuts. But then again, I'm vindictive that way. Let's look at some of the comments. Ron is here. He says, hello. Scott says, chime, beep, beep, beep. My phone just notified. He gets a notification when the podcast comes on. He always likes to tell us. Porchview Farm was looking forward to Todd. Hello. Star Driver says, woohoo, Biden lied. Say it ain't so. Porchview Farm, he's bought and paid for. Buck must be compromised. What do you think? Is that what's going on with Buck? Is there a possibility? Because it's not, it's not an allegation. We're just saying maybe it's a possibility because that's so rampant in DC, right? Who are we to think these people aren't compromised?
Anything's possible. It's interesting. They were saying that people were crazy to think about all these conspiracy theories about all the badonk, boot scoot and boogie stuff going on down there, as we say in the South. And it turned out to be true. It's wow.
Have you noticed, Todd, that pretty much Trump is always proven right in hindsight?
It's true every single time. It's true.
Yep. I have one more here. A Star Driver says Ken Buck is the new Adam Kinzinger.
Has he started crying yet?
And Star Driver's first name is Todd as well. So there you go.
Very nice.
So, I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to ask you? You said Christmas just happened in DC. Boot, scoot, and boogie. Yeah, Christmas. I forgot my train of thought. Oh well. Okay. Well, I'm getting old. This happens. I know what I was going to ask you. Along the lines of Trump, and he's always proven right. Like you're like, oh, Trump was right again. Trump was right again. When my old producer, he was a very religious Christian guy, and he said to me, he goes, have you noticed that whenever someone goes after Trump, they usually wind up in court themselves? And this was around the time of Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. And now I look at what happened to Stacey Abrams, right? Like Stacey Abrams, and look at Fannie Willis down there. And now there's questions about Letitia James and spending money. It's actually pretty accurate that when they go after him, something happens to them. It's weird. I'm not saying like he's protected or godlike or anything along those lines. I'm not saying that. But there's a weird thing that happens that in some way justice seems to be served. It may not be the justice I want, but there does seem to be some kind of karmic justice that surrounds that man.
Completely agree. I'm a Baptist, and I'm smelling karma here, and I think it's pretty awesome. It's look, but this is the Democrat way. When they accuse you of doing something, they're the ones that are actually doing it. So that is without fail what the Democrats. That's their MO.
Yeah, like the whole immigration law. It's Republicans don't want to do this is political. Donald Trump is politicizing the border. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, isn't that what you've been doing for the last 3 years? Now all of a sudden it's an emergency. Now all of a sudden it's a crisis. Mayorkas has told Congress it's not a crisis and there's no emergency and the border's closed. He lied. But now they're saying no, that's not true.
Yeah,
So
and again, Joe Biden, unless they put the drugs in the porridge, has no idea what day it is, or what planet he is on. But he was out there today, and he was mumbling about how Donald Trump had, destroyed the border, caused chaos at the border. So when you look at the facts, 400,000 illegals at the border in 2020 for Trump's last year in office. Double that when Biden took office, double that the following year, and almost double that number the third year. So you got to look at the facts. Facts do matter.
Well, facts hurt people. It's kryptonite to some liberals. Did you notice today too when he was speaking, his left eye closes. He's like Popeye. He's doing this thing because he's squinting to read the telephone. He's doing this, and then like his left eye closes. I'm like, what is that going on? Like, is he half fallen asleep? Is there a stroke happening? What's going on? He does this weird closing of his left eye when he's like angry Grandpa Joe.
He could have actually seen the ghost of Francois Mitterrand again. I don't know.
Yes, that was great. He spoke to Francois Mitterrand. I'm like, wow, who knew? Oh my God. All right, let's see. Star Driver One says Donald Trump is doing his Ace Ventura impersonation. God, I'm tired of being right. Justin, Todd Starnes for vice president. Yeah. And Justin must be a KWAM fan because he is new to the podcast. So thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. Trump also said today that Bud Light has paid the price for its controversial partnership with Dylan Mulvaney. And he said they paid a big price, but Anheuser-Busch is not a woke company. But I can give you plenty that are. I'm building a list and I just might release it for the world to see. So he's defending Bud Light.
That's interesting. Trump is his own guy. He's going to do what he wants to do, which I find so funny when, they talk about him being, the most racist, homophobic president. That he was the most pro-gay president we've had in modern American history. I mean, remember that Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage when he was running for office, and Trump did more for Black Americans than the first Black president. So, I mean, look, funding historically Black colleges and universities. But and the point of that is Trump, at his heart, I believe, is truly a populist, probably more so than a conservative. But it's people don't want to step back and actually look at who this guy really is.
No, you're right, because they've been told for so long that he's evil, he's this, he's that, and they don't want to know that. If they can't possibly, it goes against their feelings, and nobody likes their feelings challenged. Yeah. I feel that he's bad. He's a bad man. I know so many people like that, mostly white liberal women who are the most miserable people on the face of the planet. They're more miserable than 13-year-old girls. And that's saying something right there.
You got to look out for the ones with the purple, the magenta hair. Those are bad news. Bad news.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? I like that because they're marked so you can see them in the wild. So, it's okay. Then I know just to avoid them. It's all right.
By the way, when I was in New York City, I actually converted two liberal gals. They lived upstairs. I lived in Brooklyn, in a brownstone, a walk up, and they lived upstairs. And I was cooking dinner one night, and they were fashion models, so they were down in the fashion district, and they weighed like they weighed like a pea. I mean, they were bone thin. So I'm cooking Paula Deen's mac and cheese recipe.
Oh my God. Add another stick of butter.
A pound of butter, a gallon of sour cream. It's very healthy. And but anyway, there was a knock on the door, and I knew it was the girls because they're emaciated, so it's just like a little tap. And they said, "What are you cooking?" And I said, "Well, I'm cooking Paula Deen's mac and cheese." And they said, "Well, can we have some?" And I said, "Well, come on in, yeah, absolutely." And I'm like, "Thank you, Paula Deen." And so anyway, over the course of the meal, I convinced him to start voting Republican.
Wow. Are you sure they didn't just say that just so they could have some food like pasta and cheese? They probably each ate like one little elbow macaroni each, and that was it. And they cut it into tiny little pieces, so it took the whole meal.
No, they scarf that down.
Yeah.
They were
Binging, purging, so they were probably just just getting rid of it later. It's probably like a binge purge thing going on there.
Yeah, Princess Diana, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, Shore Essentials. My old classmate Jerry. Jerry and I were in school. We're in school together from second grade on.
Wow.
Killing it with guests. You should see about getting Estee Palti, Kamala impersonator, or Sean Farash. You've had Sean on, haven't you, Todd?
We have, yes.
Yeah. I could use you to get him on. Grace will give me his info. Greg says, remember Tim Kaine's wandering eyebrow in reference to Joe Biden's weird, wacky closed eye all of a sudden. Do you remember that? Remember Tim Kaine had like the eyebrows?
It was very odd. Yeah, I don't know what it is with the Democrats and their VPs.
Yeah. Or because Kamala, but Nancy Pelosi and who else? Kathy Hochul. Like Nancy Pelosi's eyebrows are like halfway to her forehead, like halfway up there. And Kathy Hochul's got the same thing going on. It's very weird. It's very odd. Okay, one more political thing and then we're moving on. I wanted to get your opinion on this because I thought this would be interesting. Jennifer Crumbley, she is the mother of Ethan Crumbley, who was the Oxford high school shooter. She just was sentenced today. She was found guilty. She wasn't sentenced. She was found guilty on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. She was put on trial basically for the crimes that her son committed, because the prosecutor said she didn't do anything to prevent it. She and her husband gave him the gun as a gift. They knew he was troubled. She was called to the school the day of the shooting, and on the morning of November 30th, to meet with school counselors after he was caught scrawling disturbing notes in class. His notes included an image of a gun and the phrases, "Help me, blood everywhere, and my life is useless." And mom just left, instead of taking him home, she chose to leave him in school. Both she and her husband left him in school that day and just went about their business. And then later in the afternoon, he committed the shooting. He had the gun that they had given him as a gift in his backpack. Should she have been found guilty? Should she be held accountable for what he did?
How old was the son?
15 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And I say that from the experience of living in one of the most dangerous cities in America, Memphis, Tennessee, where you have 8 and 9-year-old children that are carjacking people with guns. And people here are literally having conversations. Would you rather be carjacked or robbed at gunpoint by a child or by someone who is 18, 19, 20 years old? Because the child will shoot you. The older the kids will probably just run away with your money, your wallet, or your car. So they're actually having this discussion here in Tennessee, where a state lawmaker has introduced or is introducing legislation that would actually hold the parents accountable if their child is out there committing crimes. It's so bad here, Mary, that we have kids that literally are committing crimes with ankle bracelets on. So at some point, if you're a parent of a 15-year-old and that 15-year-old has access to a gun and that 15-year-old is slap crazy, I think you got a responsibility to make sure that child doesn't go to the school and shoot it up. And I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I think it's also a little I guess, how out of touch are these parents that they gave their kid a gun? Like they don't know their son to that degree. Now, so
Yeah.
listen, there are a lot of families. We all know people. Like I lived in what my mother referred to as the Catholic ghetto because it was all Catholics, and we had two Jewish families. And the Catholic one family had 11 kids, one family had like everybody had 6 kids, 9 kids, whatever. We only had three. We weren't doing our part, and every family there was always like the kid in the family who the other ones are great, they're going to church, everything's great, and then you get that one kid. But if those of us on the outside can see that kid, the parents have to be able to see that kid,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you got to know your kids. You don't give that kid a gun for their birthday.
No, not at all. And I mean, this really opens up a discussion into what the biggest problem in America is, which I think is the destruction of the family itself. Parents are just, in a lot of cases, are just not parenting. They're not disciplining their kids. When we were growing up, I don't know what it was like in your neighborhood, but in the South, you were sent outside in the summertime. Your mom was like, "Don't come home till the street lights are." And the kids had a good time. We weren't in front of the TVs. We weren't in front of cell phones and all the electrical
Yep.
devices or whatnot. And if somebody screwed up, you better believe that the neighbors were swatting you, and then you were going to get it twice as much when you got home. And
Yes.
we don't live in that kind of a society anymore. And I think there's nothing wrong with a healthy fear of Almighty God and your grandmother's, cast iron frying pan.
Well, growing up in the Northeast, it was your mother a wooden spoon, or your
Uh,
mother took her slipper off and threw it at you.
those nuns, even us Baptists were scared of the nuns with those rulers. Jeez, Lou, golly,
Uh, for those of you who don't know Todd, Jeezaloo is a swear word in his world, okay?
among other things.
Come to Jersey. Boy, can I teach you some things. Um, Porch View Farm says John Kirby and his Botox is right up there with the eyebrow people. Do you think he gets Botox? Do you think Kirby gets Botox?
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, our morning show host Ben Dieter, I know you're on his show this morning.
Yes.
He's sometimes he's sporting a Donald Trump look some days. Got the
What does,
whole,
oh, the orange thing going on?
yeah, the bronze.
Oh, because is he on TV, or is it on camera in the morning?
It is, yeah. I'm
Okay,
like,
well then
you got to
I
look
get
good.
it. Yeah, I get it. He's got a lot of hair though. Maybe he's got to move some of the hair. Justin says parents should be held responsible for their children's actions until they turn 18. They are mom and dad's responsibility. 100%.
Yeah.
Star Driver says, here's what needs to be done with these juveniles. After being charged with 2 felonies, they automatically go to adult court. Juveniles know nothing will be done to them, so they could care less. It's very true. It's very true. All right, let's move on to the Todd Starnes part of the show, shall we? Okay. So you can find Todd on X at Todd Starnes. Super easy. TODDSTARNES. All right. Todd is the owner of the Starnes Media Group. He also owns KWAM AM and FM in Memphis, Tennessee. He hosts a show on KWAM, and he hosts a show on Newsmax TV, and syndicated columnist. And are you ready? Now, this is something like I knew you had written a couple of books, but let's go back to 2011, Dispatches from Bitter America by Todd Starnes. Then we go to 2012. Oh, 2012 too, it's there. 2009, they popped my hood and found gravy on the dipstick.
Yeah.
No offense, but in a twisted world, this could be a porno.
It could, right? Very unfortunate porno. Yes.
That's the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, Todd, what were you thinking?
So my favorite thing that happened when I was at Fox News, Bill Hemmer actually introduced the book. Let's welcome Todd Starnes, the author of the new book, They Pooped My Hood. And I said, no, Bill, no. No pooping here, no pooping. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, the first thing I thought was, hey, baby, want me to pop your hood? I just you got some gravy on that dipstick? That's the first thing I could think of. Sorry. Godless America, stories from the front lines of the attack on traditional values. The Deplorables Guide to Making America Great Again. Culture Jihad, how to stop the left from killing a nation. This one, of course, I think this is probably your most popular book to date. I could be wrong. Our Daily Biscuit, Devotions with a Drawl. That's so you, Todd. That is just so. That to me is the book is like, oh, Todd
Yeah.
Starnes, 100% you. Is that your most popular book so far?
Shockingly, it's the second. God Bless America was the best selling of those.
Really?
Yeah, and the Bisco book is doing great though.
Yeah, and there is a new book coming out March 19th, but you can pre-order it right now on Amazon. Twilight's Last Gleaming, Can America Be Saved? So I have a couple questions about all of this. When do you find the time between laundry and living in a 140 some odd year old house and I'm constantly emptying buckets because there's a roof is leaking somewhere and, prepping for shows and the podcast? How do you do this? Because so many people have told me, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. When? How do I do? Where do you find the time, Todd?
Yeah, I'm single. I have nothing else to do. So that's probably the close answer. I guess the easiest answer. I just enjoy writing. It's a fun thing, and it's sort of cathartic. When I was growing up, I was a big time reader, and it was really funny. In junior high school, my aunt, who was an English teacher, gave me a copy of a book. She was a big fan of Irma Bombeck. I don't know if you
I
remember.
loved Irma Bombeck as a kid. She had a column in the newspaper. I loved it. I read her book, The Grass is Always Greener Over the Septic Tank. I loved it. I love her.
So I loved it too, which is not cool if you're a seventh grade boy,
Oh,
in
yeah.
high school. But I became a huge fan of that style of storytelling. There was a guy named Art Buchwald who was a great writer for the New York Times and the Washington Herald, and he wrote in that kind of a whimsical, satirical way. Molly Ivins, she was a liberal, but she was a hilarious writer. She coined the phrase, Bush was born with a silver foot in his mouth. It's just, and I was really drawn to that style of writing. And so we try to do that. We talk a lot about the serious issues of the book, but I try to do it with a lot of fun and with a lot of satire. My favorite chapter in Twilight's Last Gleaming is I tell the story of the rapture as if it's happening on CNN. And so at the very end, we realize that the entire staffs of Newsmax and Fox are off the air, but everybody is still at CNN and MSNBC. It's really a lot of fun.
That's hilarious. I know you're obviously a very religious person, and I love that you are unabashedly so. And I love that comes through in so many when you retell stories and you talk about different things on the air, wherever it happens to be. You're not afraid to go there, and I love that. My husband and I just started watching The Chosen. Love it. Totally sucked in. Totally sucked in. But we can only get seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix. I don't know where seasons 3 and supposedly 4 is out now, but I got to find out where season 3 is. I'm still only in season 1. I'm getting there. We just picked up. We just did the wedding at Cana. That's where we were. And I love that Mary Magdalene was the first one chosen. Boom! Suck it, boys. First one chosen was a woman. Boom. And she gets no credit. Just saying.
She's a good cook, though.
And she does dishes and laundry, so they had to have her. A star says, since the grass is greener over the septic tank, that explains why the grass is so green around the White House and Capitol.
Clever star driver, clever.
Let's see. Here you go. Justin, I knew he was a Todd Starnes fan. Justin says, I bought my copy today of Todd's new book.
Awesome.
Yay. Let's see. Okay. So speaking of your religion and being Christian, and you're very open about it. Tell everybody about, you did some home improvement. What did you hit the store, and he's telling me this story off the air. I'm like, you got to tell the story on the air, Todd.
This is terrible.
So what did you just buy?
So I was looking for a rug, and so I went over to the Macy's, and I'm always looking for a good deal. and so they said, "Oh well, we've got this one rug, and I'm a blue guy. That's kind of my I like blue." And so it was a very nice rug. He said, "Yeah, we will give this to you pretty much for like 60% off." It was just so dirt cheap, and I didn't. It was again, it was a great rug. My pastor, some church friends came over, and they're walking in and they're noticing the rug, and so my pastor looks at me and he says, why did you buy a Muslim rug?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "This is Islamic writing all around the outer edges. So apparently, I bought a giant Islamic prayer rug on sale."
On the upside, you have your bases covered should something go awry.
I know, but for some reason, if somebody knocked on the door, I'm like, "Assalamu alaikum, y'all. Come on in."
Y'all. You need a Jewish mezuzah on the door too. Cover all your bases. We have very good friends who are Jewish, and they had given us one, because they know that they come and they decorate our Christmas tree at Christmas. Jews love Christmas. So I said, sure, we'll put it up. I don't have a problem with that because you never know. They may be right. So I'll cover all my bases. I'm not saying I'm definitely right. What happens if I get up there and I find out I'm wrong and they were right? And I'm like, damn, I should have put the mezuzah up. See, so now you could say God, you could say Allah, because if the Muslims are right, when you get up there, you go Allah. I had a prayer rug. I had the biggest Muslim prayer rug you could ever find, and I bought it at Macy's.
I may take a screenshot of it just in case I get caught up in one of those things. It's funny you mentioned that. We have a massively large Jewish population here in Memphis, and they have named me an honorary member of the Jewish Republican group. So I'm honored as a Gentile. It's great. But it reminds me of the first time I was in New York when I got hired at Fox, and I moved to New York. I'm a big sausage biscuit. I'm just a biscuit guy, being in the South. So I went to the little deli around the corner and ordered. I was like day one in New York City.
Oh,
and I said, "I'd like a sausage biscuit." And the guy looks at me from behind the counter. He goes, "I know not of this biscuit that you speak of." And I said, "Well, it's a biscuit, and you cut it open and you just put some sausage in there." And he told me that they didn't have biscuits. And I said, "Well, what do you have?" He said, "Well, we got the bagel." And I said, "The what?" And he said, "We pulls out this thing, kind of like a hockey puck." And I said, "All right, I'll take that." He goes, the guy goes, "Honest to goodness, Mary," he says, "Do you want me to smear your bagel?" I said,
"Yeah, smear."
Said, "You want to do what to my bagel?" I said, "Buddy, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. You don't smear another guy's bagel where I come from."
But you do find a gravy on each other's dipsticks.
That does sound kind of.
So did you get a bagel schmear?
So I did eventually. I had to warm up to it, but I'm enjoying a little schmear every now and again.
Yeah. So I made the mistake once in New York, and I should have known better, but it didn't register with me. So when you go in, you just ask for a bagel schmear, which in other parts of the country, it means a bagel with cream cheese on it. There's the cream cheese on it. It's a bagel schmear cream cheese. And I asked them, what's that and lox? And they wouldn't put the lox in the bagel. I didn't realize it was a kosher Jewish deli.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't. So I just got the bagel with the schmear and no lox. So I was a little upset about that because I look forward to that. I love that. You throw some capers on there and I'm in heaven. So, but see, now that you've had a good New York bagel, when you go back to Memphis and you try to eat that crap, that's not a bagel.
It's not a bagel. It's not a bagel.
It's not. It's not. They try, but it's just not. So if you have any questions for Todd, get them in there. Now's the time. If you have any questions, because we're going to go in the Wayback Machine with Todd in just a hot second here. Gregory says, "I bet Todd liked Sidney J. Harris too." I don't know who that is. Do you?
It's been a long day. My brain isn't quite.
I don't know who that is. He also says, "I bet your rug says death to the infidel."
Well, I noticed every time I have, every time I smoke a pork butt, the rug kind of curls up a little bit. I don't know what that's all about.
Sit on it and eat bacon and see what happens. So let me ask you, Todd, can you invite the Jewish Republicans over now, knowing that you have a Muslim prayer rug in the living room? How's that going to go?
This could be tragic. Yeah.
I just love that you didn't know. Like that, I just think that's hilarious because I think so many people are like, oh, that's such a pretty design,
I thought
and
it was
have no
cursive.
clue.
I thought it was cursive. That's all I thought. I didn't think anything of it.
Did you roll it up and take it back to Macy's and go, yeah, you can have it back for, I don't even want my money back?
I was afraid to.
I was afraid to. Uh, okay, going back to Jennifer Crumley, Scott says, in my humble opinion, absolutely not. Should she not be convicted or charged with anything? There's no way she could understand such a serious psychological trauma. Then you get your kid to someone who can, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you give birth to the spawn of Satan, I think somewhere along the way you have to know, right?
Yeah, I would think somewhere. But parents, I know so many parents who are so clueless when it comes to their children. They have no clue, no clue. Jerry says, for years, Gail and I decorated at Christmas with blue and white lights outside because they were pretty. Then one year, my son asked me why we were decorating for Hanukkah. We had no idea. That's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. Gregory says Harris was a newspaper columnist. Perhaps it was only in Chicago. Maybe.
Now,
Yeah.
I have to tell you the dipstick. So there is a story behind the dipstick book.
Sure there is.
There really is. And it's not the size of the dipstick that matters. But this is there's a great Southern writer named Louis Grizzard, and he was just one of the great Southern humorists of our time. And he wrote a book. He was a columnist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and wrote a series of books. And he had a stand-up gig, very popular back, I guess, in the 70s and 80s. And anyway, he had a heart problem, and which I happen to have the same heart problem. He wrote a series of books about it. His first one was they popped. No, hold on. They stomped my. What is it? They stomped my heart and tore that sucker out or something. So he wrote these funny Southern books with funny sayings or I'm sorry, they tore my heart out and stomped that sucker flat. Elvis is dead and I don't feel so good myself. Don't bend over in the garden, Granny, them taters got eyes. And that's my jam. Some people write NPR. I write Louis Grizzard.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. One more on this before we go on the way back. Star says some of these parents are so clueless they couldn't guess which way is up if you gave them 3 guesses. It's very true. So let me ask you, Todd. I mean, let's face it, people don't realize, but you're a media mogul. You really are. Well, you know what? You left Fox and you struck out on your own, and you now own Starnes Media Group. You bought an AM and an FM radio station in Memphis. You started from scratch with it basically, and you have built it into a formidable 2 radio station. You have 2, right? In oh, cat fight. You have so you have 2 in Memphis. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. Many have tried and many have failed. And you've managed to monetize it. You've managed to make it profitable. You're winning awards all over the place. So you've built a really good group there, and that's not an easy thing to do. Plus, on top of it, you host a show there. So you run the station, you host a show, you got a show on Newsmax, syndicated columnist, and you're writing all these books. So, what do you think it was growing up or when you were younger that put you in this direction? You said you love to read. I love to read too, but I don't have that much ambition.
It's really funny, and people find, unless people know me very well, they find what I'm about to say hard to believe. But I'm an introvert. I am not a big.
I believe it.
I love privacy. I don't go out a lot. I'm pretty much driven by work, and I love it. Even when I'm on a vacation, I'm always trying to be plugged in. But my dad, we moved. My dad was an electrician, blue collar worker, and I was born and raised in Memphis. And when I was in junior high, Dad wanted to move the family to Louisiana. And this was right as the oil industry was having a big boom. And he launched his own electrical company. And then the oil industry went belly up. And it was about the time, believe it or not, that Toby Keith was working in the oil fields in Oklahoma. Oil industry went kaput and everybody lost their jobs. And my dad lost everything. I mean, everything. And it was a really tough time for our family. And I think it wasn't like there was a moment when I said, I don't want to ever have to go through this again, but I think it really instilled in me a work ethic. And that is something that, when I think I turned 12 or 13, it was like time to get a job. I held a job offer
Right.
from school and two jobs through college. And, you just do what you have to do. So I think that's why I do what I do. But, I will say this, that the reason why KWAM is so successful is because of the staff. I mean, they're really crushing it and they work hard. And I overheard one of our staffers telling a new hire the other day, they said, Starnes treats this like it's Fox News. And it's that idea of just being excellent at what you do and working hard. And we've kind of lost that in our industry, I think. And so we're working hard in Memphis to try to bring that back.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. And fun fact about Toby Keith, who, by the way, passed away today, so sad. Villanova. Went to Villanova for one year, one semester, maybe 1 year, maybe like just his freshman year. And then he left to go to Louisiana with his dad and work in the oil fields because he figured he could make some easy money. He was a petroleum engineering major, which that's not an easy thing to get into because Villanova is a relatively small school, especially like the engineering school, business school. They're kind of hard to get into. So he was no dummy, but he made a bad choice there by leaving and going for the. But then look what then he worked in the rodeo and did a bunch of other stuff, and he's obviously wildly gifted. So he a stewardess, an airline flight attendant gave a cassette of his that he had given her, I guess, to some music executive, and that's how he got his break.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing. And again, blue collar family. And I think when you come from those kinds of backgrounds, you really appreciate and
sure.
cherish what you have. And I think for a lot of people, you just want to make sure you see that in other people too. And I think it kind of makes you more compassionate, or at least more, you're just more aware.
Yeah. Um, Greg wants to know, are your works available as audiobooks?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be recording the audio version of Twilight's Last Gleaming next week, so about 2 weeks late. But
Nice. Oh, it's okay.
maybe,
Scott's going back to the Crumblies, and he said, "Look at Columbine, that massive thing. How the world is a parent. How in the world is a parent supposed to be able to identify something like that's going to about to happen? It's absurd." You want to take that one, Todd?
well, I think parents have a responsibility to know what their kids are doing. And if you do, then you're going to you're going to realize, oh, my kid is collecting an arsenal here. And why is there ammo in the closets? Why is all of a sudden my kid shaving his head and wearing black? These
Mm-hmm.
are warning signs. And I think parents do have a responsibility.
Yeah.
This is not like it was in the 70s and 80s anymore. We didn't have to worry about this back when we were in school. So
No.
something has clearly happened in the culture. And I think the disintegration of the family, and I don't want to say all these cases, but in a good many of them, you're looking at one parent households. So, again, I
Yeah.
think we have to look at the root causes of a lot of this too.
Yeah, and in Columbine, to your point, the kids when the cops raided the houses, they literally had arsenals in their bedrooms, and the parents somehow didn't know.
Yeah.
So my parents made it quite clear: if you live under my roof, I have the right to every room in the house.
Yeah.
So if you don't like that, you're more than welcome to go get your own apartment, and then you can keep me out of your rooms in your home. So, you know, Scott still thinks we should free the parents. Sorry, Scott, you're barking up the wrong tree here. Okay. I want to know, since Grace told us what it was like to work at a radio station and everything, what's it like to have to deal with the personalities? Because you said at heart you're an introvert. So believe it or not, I am too. Like I when I have to be out and when I have to quote unquote perform, I can do it. Like getting on the stage and grabbing a microphone and talking to, a bunch of people doesn't phase me. At least I say it doesn't, but it doesn't phase me. But if I walk into a room with a lot of people and I don't know anybody, I'm that person who goes stands in the corner and I just observe and I see where everybody is. And if given the choice, like I love being alone. Like I love solitude. I'm that person who loves gloomy, rainy days because I'm like, oh, I can bundle up, like I can bundle up and read a book. This is great. Um, So so I kind of get that, but you have to deal with people. You have to manage people. There isn't enough money in the world to make me manage people. There is just no way. Friend of mine got me a plaque. If I knew I have it. It's just a little thing, like one of those little signs that says, "Today was going great," and then people, right? Like, and that's like my motto. Like, I want to be, I wish we could like brand people, like just put a mark on them in like indelible ink for a while, so that somebody comes along and goes, "Oh, all right, you've been marked. I noticed you're clear of you," because there's some people whose sole purpose in life is to be a speed bump, right? Like in my day, that's their whole purpose. So how do you do that?
So this has been a hard adjustment for me because I've never been in charge of people before and been responsible for people. And so there have been a couple of times when I've actually wanted to call my former bosses at Fox, and you were very gracious and you said I left Fox. I was kind of like booted out, but it was time. I mean, it really was time. And I'm grateful for every single second I had at Fox because I learned a lot and worked with some of the greatest people in the business. And
That's where we met at Fox.
that's right. We met at Fox.
Yeah, I got to interview you. I was in for Brian Kilmeade, and they said, "Oh, your guest is Todd Starnes." I'm like, "Oh, fun," because I had seen you on TV, and you were so nice, just as nice in person as you appeared to be on TV. You were so genuine, and then I think I got to. I think I interviewed you a second time at Fox. But anyway, so yes, so I got to meet you at Fox, which was one of those wonderful things. It was great.
So there have been a couple of times when I wanted to call my ex-bosses and say, I just want to apologize for how I handled X, Y, and Z because now I'm on their side of the ledger, right? So
Right.
so I see how that works. One of the things I really understand my strong points and my weak points, and so I hire the very best people to handle those weak points, the things that I am not good at, and for me, my nature is to micromanage, and that's always a struggle. And but I'm learning to ease up and let people do their jobs and to trust them that they're going to get out there and they're gonna work hard. We really value loyalty, and that's a big thing for me because you know how our industry is. There's really no loyalty. And I remember we had one person we hired from one of the conglomerates, and just an incredible individual, one of our best hires, but would never go on vacation. And then I realized where this guy had come from, and this particular conglomerate, because I worked for this conglomerate at one time in my radio career, they were known to lay people off and fire them when they went on vacation.
Oh
And
my
so the running joke was don't ever went on vacation in this particular radio group. And I said, look, go on vacation. Your job will be here, when you get back. So we just try to be good to people. And, it's a hard job. I do require a lot from our staff because, again, going back to that idea of being excellent in what we do, I don't want people just to scream into a microphone. I want to have, radio is supposed to be fun, right? And we're kind of a mix between the old TV show, remember News Radio and
sure.
WKRP.
Was that Phil Hartman?
Phil Hartman, or is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Andy Dick before. Is he dead? Is Andy Dick dead?
Or is he in prison? I don't know.
Yeah, didn't go well for him. That was a great show, though. That was a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Andy Griffith's show thrown in, we have the best list. Honest to God, I have to tell you this one story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a huge fan of Williams Sausage, which is one of the best sausage companies in America. And they're based here in Tennessee. So I don't like tubes. You get the tube of sausage and you have to chop it up and it gets mushy. And so Williams Sausage actually has a case and it's already cut and individualized. It's very great. Well, they stopped selling them down at the Kroger. So I was talking about it on the radio and I was complaining about it. And in the next hour, one of the staffers comes upstairs and says, Todd, there's a giant Williams Sausage semi out in front of the building. The driver, it was kind of like those scenes in New York City in the Fashion District where the dresses would fall off the back of the truck. So the 3 or 4 cases of sausage just dropped off of the back of the truck. And I'm like, I love radio.
So just so you know, in the Northeast, when someone says that something fell off a truck, it usually means that someone held the truck driver up and the contents fell off the truck. So
Oh,
it has a totally different meaning
I
here.
get lost in
Because like I had cousins from North Jersey, and my uncle would be like, "Here, take it, fell off a truck," and I was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Mom, look what Uncle so and so gave me. He said it fell off a truck," and she's like, "I'm sure it did," you know. So yeah, it's so funny when I go to other parts of the country and they'll say something like, "Well, I know a guy," and I'd be like, "Oh no, 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 and no, you don't say that," and or they'll say, something fell off a truck, that type of thing. You get into the other parts of the country means something totally different.
So to your point, a couple of books ago, I was writing, and my book editor at Simon and Schuster literally called me up and said, "We need to know what you're talking about here." And I'm like, "What?" And she says, "Well, you talk about how much you enjoy going out back and smoking a pork butt." And she says, "Is that a euphemism for something?" And I'm like, "No, it's good eating. We're smoking a pork butt." Which is pork shoulder, but it's like you said, it gets lost in translation.
Exactly. The one I was trying to think of was somebody out in Idaho said, "Well, he's connected," and I was like, and my husband and I both at the same time said, "I don't think that means what you think it means." But we both took a big step backwards and went, "Oh, okay." Okay, so when you were younger, the younger Todd Starnes, you were a bookworm, you loved to read, so did I. I totally get it. You were probably socially awkward, as was I. Did you go to the prom?
No, I did not go to the prom, but I did cover the prom. So I was the
Oh
editor.
no, you were the reporter.
I
That's
was
even
the editor of the
worse.
newspaper. Yes,
No, Todd.
no, it's terrible.
That's so awful. Do you go to your high school reunions?
No, I should.
You should.
It was, I had a great time in high school. It really was a lot of fun. But it was, yeah, I was definitely super geek. I was like news,
Mm.
news, news. And, I worked at our local radio station. I wrote our little high school news update column for the Times-Picayune, which was the New Orleans newspaper. And I was just, I knew what I wanted to do at a really young age. And, that's,
So
I think I'm
I,
blessed.
I was going to ask you, is this something you've always wanted to do, or when you were younger, you wanted to be an astronaut or whatever, want to be a cowboy, and or if I had to guess, you probably wanted to be a sausage maker, because there is an affinity for it. So
Uh, well, believe it or not, we lived in Laplace, Louisiana, which was the andouille sausage capital of the world, and we had a Miss Andouille sausage queen. It was a big deal in our town back in the day.
did you ever know the andouille sausage queen?
No, but I knew one of the girls in the court. So she was like a sausage. I don't know what they call them, a sausagette,
A sausage?
a
Yeah,
leaf, a leaf
sausagette.
sausage. I don't know. But so I got fired. My dad fired me when I was a kid, and which is how I ended up working at the newspaper.
What were you doing for your dad where he fired you?
So we were working at a Popeyes fried chicken restaurant. Their neon sign went out, and so my job was to go and turn the circuit breaker off, and which I thought I did until I heard crash and my dad screaming and cursing like a Lutheran, and
That's a saying, cursing like a Lutheran.
for us Baptists, it is like drinking like an Episcopalian. So, the joke, wherever there are 2 or more Episcopalians, there's a 5th. So it's.
Oh, I thought you'd say that about Catholics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know.
All right. Let's go to Gregory says, as talk show hosts, are serial callers a blessing or a curse?
Wow. So yes. One of my favorite callers, and this is something that, I was a huge Limbaugh guy growing up, listen to Rush, and, the callers are not just there to take up time. The callers have to serve a purpose for the show. I mean, which is why call screening is so important. And, I have, the best executive producer in the business. Grace Baker just does a terrific job. But every now and again, we have calls that I say we have a big front porch. And we had a sweet caller, and she would call all the time. And she was an older lady, and she was a lot of fun. And one day she called in and just wanted to talk to Grace, and her husband had died, and she was alone by herself.
Oh.
And so I got her number, and I called her, and just try to keep up with her and see how she's doing, because in a way, when you think about it, a lot of times people call in. We've got a couple of folks that are blind that call in their homes. And we are their family, right? I mean, we are the extension. We call it the big front porch, the radio front porch. And I think we have, that's our responsibility. On the radio station, I tell people, I tell our staff, you think about those long haul truck drivers that are driving through our city, we're their lifeline. And so we always want to be there. We are a caller driven radio station. So we do want people to call. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I love taking calls. I love listening to what they have to say. Listen, I'm up to a challenge, and sometimes I've learned something. I've had my mind change sometimes. It's a two-way street. I'm not always right, and they're always, there to challenge me. But sometimes I learn, and I think that that's great. It's a good exchange if you're ready to open your mind. Chris Christie says, wait, what did they think smoking a pork butt meant?
Wait, is this Krispy Kreme or is this another Chris Christie?
No, it's a different Chris Christie, obviously.
I was like, wow. No, Chris. I don't know. I kept thinking like Cheech and Chong. I don't know. Like I'm sitting in the back of a van. I don't know.
You didn't ask. You didn't say, like, what the heck did you think I meant?
I was just too busy laughing. I'm like, what?
Oh my God. He says, oh my gosh, Todd Starnes is hilarious. It's true. Once you open up, you get to, this is why I wanted to do this, because people have to see, like, you come off as very folksy, which you really are, but under there, like when you peel that away, you scratch that surface, like you're really funny. It's a different personality underneath.
I have to tell you, so the whole woman, it's kind of an ongoing thing about, me being single. And I'm just, I told, they're like, so you're single, you never got married. I'm like, no. I said, I'm just unfortunate. I have not been able to find the missus. So I have two very funny stories to share with you about this, Mary. And I don't think I've ever shared these publicly. So I was speaking at a Christian romance novelist retreat. It was me and 500 middle-aged women who are writing Christian romance, and about 75 Amish women. And I'm telling you, that Amish romance stuff is a little freaky. I'm just going to tell you. If the buggies are rocking, don't come a knocking. A man called Yoder. I just, it is what it is. So anyway, I told my mac and cheese story, which is a true story. I told my Paula Deen mac and cheese story. And every time I see Paula, I thank her for that mac and cheese recipe. So anyway, I'm signing autographs. And this woman comes up to me, and she asked to get a selfie. And I said, I'd be honored to. She commences to put in this is a Christian romance novelist retreat, puts her hand in her bosom and pulls out her cell phone and had to rub it off because I guess it was a little toasty in there.
Oh.
And she leans in and she says, I make a mean mac and cheese. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, she figured the way to your heart was through your stomach.
So this is true. And my other story, and this is why I think I have, when I was 37, I went to the doctor. I was working in Sacramento at the great KFBK radio station where Limbaugh got his start. And I thought I had bronchitis, went to the doctor, and turned out that I had a pretty serious health issue. My aortic valve was closing up. I was a heart defect I was born with. They never spotted it. And the doctor said, you got about 2 weeks to live if you do not have open heart surgery. So I thought, I was getting a prescription for, I don't know, Robitussin, and the next thing you know, you're filling
Oh
out
my,
your, will. So
at
I had to have
37 years old.
37. I had to have open heart surgery, and it's that have a mechanical heart valve that's literally keeping me alive today, and it's been a blessing, but it's been tough. So anyway, KFBK, my editor, the great Ken Cole said, one of the greats in radio, said, you need to keep an audio journal, and we're going to like record all of this, and we're going to produce it, and we're going to have a series of like before, during, well, we're going to have a reporter in the operating room, and then we're going to be there like afterwards. And he said, if you die, it's going to win the Pulitzer. And and I'm like, well, am I going to get workman's comp? I mean,
Can we talk about not dying, and what are the benefits going to be?
So they wanted to be there to get my very first words. So KFBK and this massive 50,000 watt signal, you could hear them in Alaska, and they were there to get my very first words after they took me off life support, and I'm just drugged up. And I had memorized what I was going to say, and it was going to be something like, "To God be the glory," just hallelujah. And they said, Todd, you have survived open heart surgery. What do you want to tell Sacramento? And I said, as loud as I could, I need a woman. And then I passed out. True story. True story. I need a woman.
Oh my God. So, well, did it work? I mean, obviously you're not married, but I mean, did you get a couple of nibbles?
So I did, so about a year or so later, I was at that point got hired, Fox hired me away. I love Sacramento. It's a great town. New York hired me away. I was dating this girl, and we were in the park, and you try not to tell people that you're a cardiac patient. It's kind of a turnoff. And when you're 38, so we were at Central Park, and my heart ticks. It's an audible tick like a clock, and you can hear it when it gets really quiet. So we're there on a bench in Central Park over by the lake and boathouse. And she said, what's that ticking noise? And I said, oh, it's my watch. I said, it's just a little noisy. And she said, why is it ticking faster now? And that was the end of that. So,
are you serious?
Yeah. So she was a big mom.
That's pretty shallow, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm going to write the full story. It's a funny story of how it ends, but anyway, she was a big Mamma Mia fan, and that was a big turnoff for me.
So you're sitting there, and so you tell her about what happened. Did she just like get up and walk away? I mean, could you feel the air change?
We went to church together. It was just sort of like and it's it is what it is.
And it just kind of petered out then.
It's all good. Yeah. And then I had to go cover the Obama campaign for Fox. So it is what it is.
So you went off and you did that. And so it just kind of like dwindled out.
It did. I
gotta tell you, Todd, you're on TV, media mogul. I gotta tell you, I'm finding this hard to believe. It could be the vest.
And I purposely didn't wear that vest. I was going to wear it. And then I thought Mary will yell at me. So I did not wear the sweater.
Damn vest he wears everywhere. Who's that politician who wore the damn vest everywhere? There's a politician who kept wearing a vest everywhere. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I just it's like a binky. Like somebody's got like their little whoopee blanket. I'm like, does someone have to take it away from you? Does Grace have to come over to your house in the middle of the night and like take it out of your closet and wash it and then put it back without you knowing?
I have a person for that.
You have a person for that. Okay. Chris here says, I was today years old when I learned there was a Christian romance novel genre.
Oh, huge.
Do I even ask what makes it like? I know I got to let you go. We've gone an hour. I promised an hour, so I know I got to let you go. But like, what is the difference between that and like a good Harlequin romance?
I think instead of saying "oh baby," you just say "oh my lord." I don't know.
But you gave a talk at one of these things. I would think you would know what you were talking about.
Yes. Well, I talked about writing a good novel and good storytelling. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I just thought you would know the audience. Gregory says Glenn Youngkin, our governor of Virginia, wore that vest everywhere.
He
Yes,
did. It's a
yes.
great look.
What do you think about Glenn Youngkin for VP?
So I have a funny story about that. I was interviewing Trump in his office at Mar-a-Lago.
So jealous.
So Donald Trump is like, the man is like, watching him in his office at work, it's like being on the hood of a race car at Daytona 500 and just holding on for dear life. The guy multitasks. And
Yes.
so I'm interviewing him for the book. And he's like, hollering out to his assistants. And then he says something about Glenn Youngkin. And they're like, hey, we've got to write an endorsement tweet about Glenn Youngkin. Starnes, what do you think about Glenn Youngkin? Well, I think he's a great guy. All right, let's write that down. Write that down. And so I think I actually wrote Trump's endorsement of Glenn Youngkin by accident.
And you didn't even know you did it. All right, one final question for you, and then I will let you go. Who's your favorite employee?
Oh, wow. Stop. I'm just going to say this. Wow. Grace Baker asked you to do that, or Ben Dieter?
I'm not going to tell you who asked me.
So I will say this. I love our entire staff. We have, it really has been a blessing. And our staff is really young, and they're so much fun. And every day I step back and I think, I cannot think that I would be doing what they are doing at their age right now. So it's really, oh, Ben Dieter just texted in all caps, it better be me. I will.
Well, let's see. Grace texted me before, so let me see if she. Nope, nothing from Grace. So there you go. And I will be seeing your nephew out in Montana in March next month.
That's right. We're very proud. Tell him to come back home. His mother wants him to come back home. So
don't think he's coming back anytime soon.
No, he was back here and he looked like a mountain man. We're like, who is this?
I know. When I saw him, so Todd's nephew worked at KWAM. So when I would fill in, I got to know him, and he left to go to Big Sky. And so when we were out there in June, I think it was June, we went out for a wedding. And so he was out there for the summer. And so we took him out for dinner, and then we took him another time for drinks, whatever. It was nice. It was good to get to finally meet him in person. And he looked like such a young kid. Like, he looked like such a kid. And I sent you those pictures, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks like my grandson, right? Like, he's like such a baby face. And so I can't wait to see him in March with like a beard and the flannel shirt and the whole Montana thing going on. It'll be interesting.
Lumberjack. Yeah, we're very proud. But I have to brag on you, Mary Walter. Every time you are filling out on the show, people love you.
Oh,
and KWAM, you've got a huge fan base in Memphis, Tennessee. So they love Mary Walter down here.
Well, thank you so much. You've built a really great audience. And one more comment for you here, Todd. There is Amish romance novels, according to Porchview Farm. How the hell she knows that is beyond me. I don't know. How do they write them? Because they can't use electricity. So do they have to get like a Gutenberg press? You know what I mean? Like Ben Franklin, where they got the little things to make the pages, and they got to put the little pieces in, and they run one thing. How do they make a book? It's a legit question.
It's fair. It's fair.
Right? They got the big slop thing with the ink on it, and then they put the sheet over it. They run it through the press. They got to grind it down. And come back out.
Sweet mercy.
I've seen that show. What is it? Where the Amish people leave to go on Rumspringa, and then they go into the real world, and someone from TLC, they have a TLC crew that follows them, and then they leave, and, that whole thing. So I know a lot of the rules about the Amish, but I also know that they all hide cell phones. They all have cell phones, and they hide them.
Well, I don't think we have any here in Memphis. They don't do the donuts, in the buggies on the interstate down here, or.
Yeah, I've never been to a Buc-ee's. I don't know what a Buc-ee's is like a convenience store, like at a right.
You haven't been to Buc-ee's yet?
There aren't any, but are you kidding? There's one Popeyes that I know of in the state, and it's not close.
Wow.
I've never been to a what is the other one? Country Buffet. What is that thing that everybody likes? The Country Buffet. Cracker Barrel. There's one I think there's one in New Jersey, but it's down south. So
have you been to Waffle House yet?
We don't have Waffle Houses. I live in the diner capital of the country. Why a Waffle House is going nowhere here?
Well, if you do, if you're down south, bring a gun with you. It's great food. You just want to be prepared.
I don't think I could cross state lines with a gun, right?
Well,
That's the thing.
well, in Tennessee, we're pretty loosey goosey with that.
Well, you have to be with
Yeah,
all the crime.
I think
Chris,
we'll be all
Chris,
right down here.
Chris Christie says, I guess they write them out by hand and send them to Yoder. Star
Well,
Driver says Waffle House is Southern hibachi.
yeah, wow, that's brilliant. I'm gonna have to borrow that line.
Porch Farm says they use typewriters. Also not, also are not is. I had background. Don't worry about that. We don't care about that. There are. I know what you meant. There are Amish romance novels. Yeah, they use typewriters. Okay, but I guess you can use carbon paper, right? You just can't use a copier.
Or you can sit around the campfire and share the stories.
You ain't lived until you've consumed Grandpa's country fried breakfast at the Cracker Barrel. Don't know what that is.
This is, you're right about Cracker Barrel because I guess I've been living in New York for about 16, no, oh gosh, what was it, 12 years or so. And there was a plane that went, a commuter plane that went down in Buffalo, New York, and they sent me up. And I'm driving to the crash site, and I'm like, oh wow, there's a Cracker Barrel, and almost pulled him, but I had to cover the flaming wreckage. But afterwards, I went there, and it was really
Once the flames were out, I went to Cracker Barrel afterwards.
Oh.
So Todd, I'm going to come to Memphis. One of these days, I'm getting to Memphis. I want to go to Cracker Barrel. I want to see what a Buc-ee's is. I don't know. Does it have anything on a Wawa? I don't know. I want to see what a Buc-ee's is.
Have you had the beaver nuggets?
The what?
The beaver nuggets.
I don't know. Is that anything like Mountain Rocky oysters? Because I'm not doing that.
Not those nuggets. No, they are little nuggets though, but they're not those kinds of nuggets.
Okay. I've never had biscuits and gravy. It just looks like Elmer's glue on top of the biscuits. So I don't know about that.
We'll get you some good grits, and we'll get you some. But we're not going to take it to Cracker Barrel. You're in the South, so you're going to get some good cooking down here. We'll take you to get some ribs.
Some what?
Some ribs, dry rub.
Oh, ribs. Okay. Yeah, down. I'm totally down with that. I've had that. But I've had grits. Grits is cream of wheat, right? Like what we eat up here is cream of wheat, which we would sometimes get at breakfast because my dad liked it.
I rebuke you. No, that's cream of wheat. No, grits is grits. You gotta grind them, and you gotta put butter in them. It's we'll get you fixed up. We'll get you fixed up when you're
I'm gonna need to buy 2 seats on the way home. God. None of it sounds healthy, and none of it sounds like it doesn't, weigh 10 pounds when it comes to the table.
It's not healthy, but we're very happy people down south of the Mason-Dixon line. So
the Mason-Dixon line runs through New Jersey.
Oh, all right. Well, that explains all those pickup trucks in South Jersey.
Pick me up trucks. Yes. All right. Well, Todd Starnes, thank you so much. Again, you can follow him on X at Todd Starnes. If you want to check out his show, he's got a Facebook page. Also, you can just go to KWAM, KWAM, the Mighty 990. You can listen live on online. Here out of left field very quickly. Sam says Republicans need to stop siding with the Democrats. Going back to our first topic. Yes. How else can they listen? The Mighty 9, right? They can listen online. They can go to your Facebook page and listen, right?
Yeah, we're on YouTube, Rumble, Getter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rumble, Getter. So just look for Todd Starnes. And of course, you can watch him on Newsmax as well, because it's the last hour of Todd's radio show. That's on Newsmax, but you watch on YouTube, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So look for Newsmax on YouTube. And what time is that on? Because I forget what time we're.
So they carry the radio show from 2 to 3, and then the TV show from 3 to 4. So we do 2 hours on Newsmax.
Okay.
So from 2 to 4.
Okay. And that's Eastern time.
Oh yeah.
Eastern. Okay.
Yeah.
I try to do everything Eastern time so that it's not. And people
tough.
who live in other time zones are used to doing the math. People who live on the East Coast just assume that's the time. So I don't want anyone to miss it. Thank you, Todd. You are amazing and wonderful. I had so much fun with you. I'm so glad we got to do this. And thank you for your questions. And sorry, guys, he didn't answer who his favorite employee was. I tried.
Oh,
And I want to see the rug when I come to Memphis.
okay, will do. Just yeah, don't wear your shoes. You'll have to take them off. So,
Oh,
and you'll have to sit in the back of the rug. So I think that's the Muslim way. So
that's take care, Todd. Thank you so much for joining me.
see you,
Bye-bye.
Mary.
Bye.